Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With episode 746 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it is Thursday, so you know exactly what that means. We are here to talk all things NXT and AEW, both brands coming off major shows. NXT, of course, presenting Battleground, AEW presenting Double or Nothing last Sunday. And I promise you, besides the fact that we are coming off of those shows and discussing a bunch of hours of television, there is plenty to talk about on this episode of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. As we get into the show, allow the Silver King to remind you that Getting Over
is all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. But please, if you listen on Spotify, make sure you hit that 5 stars. Now, as always, we're talking NXT and AEW in one episode. There are timestamps in the episode description, so feel free to jump from one to the other if you so choose. But as always, I hope you listen to the entire show. This is generally the show, by the way, where we would do second looks at NXT Battleground, AEW Double or Nothing, address your questions and comments from both of those shows. Sunday was pretty chaotic in that a lot of stuff was happening simultaneously. Also, this is being taped pretty late Thursday, so as not to extend this show, we're going to kind of eschew all of that. I will mention briefly some grade adjustments from the two shows. Really, the only adjustment I had from Battleground was changing the 6-man match from a B to a B-. And other than that, I thought I nailed the grading of the matches on NXT Battleground. So let's get into everything that happened in NXT this week. And when I say everything that happened, I mean everything. Because the main event of the show had the Women's Championship on the line. Stephanie Vaquer defending against JC Jane. Fatal Influence was back together backstage with JC proud of herself for creating this title opportunity. Fallon Henley reminded that Jane lost to Vaquer already, but she reminded Henley coming back that Fallon did the same. Ava then told Vaquer she needs to find a tag team partner for the Worlds Collide show, with Lola Vice walking in to accept immediately. Now, as I said, this main evented the show. Vaquer got stared down by other women in NXT as she made her way to gorilla position. Jane attacked her at the bell. Vaquer quickly got up on her. The AAA ladies ran in to distract. Vice saved and fought them to the back. Vaquer hit a 619 and springboard axe hammer coming back, plus 2 tilt-a-whirl backbreakers, eat defeat, and a running Meteora. Vaquer put Jane into the ring apron with steel steps, hitting a double underhook lung blower, while Henley distracted during SVB. Stephanie pushed JC into Fallon, leading the heels to argue ringside. They shoved Jasmine Nix away when she tried to mediate. Vaquer splashed them as Nix went to the other side of the ring in anger. Stephanie avoided rolling encore, which is JC Jane's finisher, delivered Devil's Kiss, and when she did an armbar over the ropes, Nix distracted the referee, allowing Henley to hit Vaquer basically with a 619 around the ring post. Jane then nailed her with rolling encore for a shocking 1-2-3 to become the new NXT Women's Champion. The cameras panned to the crowd, Mike Rome, Vic Joseph. Everyone was staring, mouth agape, stunned silence across the board. Mirrored my reaction sitting on my couch at home to a T. What a stunning turn of events. I mean, surprise title changes happen here and there in wrestling. I cannot remember one like this. Not with the top title on a brand. Not with the top woman on the brand. Not to a challenger in JC, who frankly did not even deserve this match. She hasn't wrestled singles on NXT since March, and she's 1-4 in her last 5 singles matches over the last 13 months. This may have been the most unpredictable title change in all of American professional wrestling since Jinder Mahal beat Randy Orton. It's definitely the biggest ever in NXT, exceeding when Leon Ruff beat Johnny Gargano for the North American title. Simply stunning. Completely out of left field. Even now, 2 days later, I'm still shocked. Let's first talk about the match. Probably JC's best as a singles wrestler. No surprise it was against Stephanie. Extremely well booked with a lot of false finishes. That made the decision hit even harder. I loved the booking. I loved the way Fatal Influence outsmarted Vaquer by getting into the fake argument that allowed them to separate across the ring, provided the perfect opening for Henley to help and for Jane to get the win. It also made sense of the argument in the background at Battleground. They weren't arguing for 2 hours. They were planning this robbery from the slap onward. That's high quality heel booking in a really short period of time. In terms of the decision, going with JC over Jordan Grace when that match was held just 3 days earlier, that was a choice. But there's no question that the Jane win is being talked about a hell of a lot more than it would have been if Grace beat her for the title. It was just that unexpected. Vaquer could certainly win the title back in short order, perhaps at Great American Bash, or this could have been a quick decision because she's getting an immediate call up to the main roster, perhaps even heading into Money in the Bank if she's in the qualifier Monday night on Raw. Liv Morgan talked about wanting to be in that match. They need other women to fill it out. Quite possible that Stephanie is in there and maybe wins. Given the way the main roster fans have reacted to Vaquer, it's certainly within the realm of possibility that she's not only called up in that match, hell, she might even win women's Money in the Bank. And the way that Grace has been booked as well, not winning anything in NXT, maybe she's getting called up as well. I mean, Jordan's been so overshadowed by Stephanie and Julia. I was thinking she probably needs to spend the rest of the year in NXT, win the title, go on a run, build herself up, and then move on. But the women's division in NXT is still strong enough to support them both leaving. That said, it would create this vacuum of women's star power in NXT. And I'm not sure that would be a great move for the brand in the short term, given it is on such a hot streak right now. Losing the top 4 women all inside of a month, so Vaquer, Julia, Grace, and Roxanne Perez, that would be rough stuff. But man, what a moment for Jane, who has been in NXT since the 2.0 switch, 5 years now, should have been called up to the main roster in 2024. This is the fruits of one's labor being rewarded, and the framing of this title change with the stunned silence and Mike Rome's expression, it allowed it to sink in extremely well. I literally realized, like when Rome was making that face, I realized I was making the exact same face on the couch. Tremendous production. And it's stuff like this that allows some of us to still hold out hope and believe in Finn Balor and Tatum Paxley and people like that. Because if Jane can come out of nowhere and win the NXT Women's Championship, maybe Balor can win the World Heavyweight Championship at some point over the next couple of years. Now, what you'll remember coming out of this is this episode of NXT was supposed to be held in Tampa as the finale to a 4-show week. It got moved to Orlando due to low ticket sales, which, as we said when it was booked, was always going to be the case because NXT Weekly TV cannot sell at a big arena, especially coming 2 days after an NXT Premium Live event. But given the booking of this match, another on the show that we're going to talk about momentarily, some debuts and surprises and segments, it was clear that this was a mega TV special that was specifically built for a larger crowd. So it's unfortunate that did not come to pass, but it's WWE's own fault for its scheduling strategy, and we discussed that at length on Tuesday's show, so I'm not going to get into that again. Mike Santana fought Tavian Heights. Santana's entrance was excellent through the crowd, getting the fans hype. I'm sure he was, hype as well individually, finally getting to wrestle in WWE. And while it probably goes without saying, Santana's entrance theme was better than 80%, maybe 90% of those in WWE. Actual real music that works for that specific wrestler, not generic Def Rebel bullshit. Corey Graves did a great job running through his pedigree and resume before the bell, even mentioning Homicide and Amazing Red. These guys beat the hell out of each other. Santana chopped the life out of Heights, hit a rolling $150 a cutter. Heights came back with a toss suplex and a Death Valley driver. Santana caught Heights midair for a fireman's carry X Factor, and then he hit a discus lariat for the win. Santana put Heights over after the bell. Charlie Dempsey didn't like that. I don't love that Santana's finisher is a discus lariat. You guys all know I hate running elbows and lariats as finishers, unless you're JBL doing the clothesline from hell. Other than that, though, Santana was mighty impressive in this spot. Despite that, it was Heights who showed out almost evenly, just given how well he wrestled and sold bell to bell. Tavian is one of the most underrated and underutilized wrestlers in NXT right now. His time will eventually come. He should be in that North American Championship picture. This was a great look for Santana. A really fun match. 3.5 stars. B, I'm realizing now I didn't give a grade for Jane and Vaquer. I meant to do that a minute ago. 3.75 stars. B+. I try not to grade every TV match. I only did these two. One, because when it's a title match, I usually do it. And also, secondly, when it's someone like Santana debuting on the brand and I'm putting it over as a quality match, I need to kind of give a little context to that. Trick Williams opened hour 2 of NXT with the TNA Championship in tow. There was a great Trick NA chant by the fans. Williams bragged about his resume, chided the crowd for cheering him now when they've been jeering him and supporting Joe Hendry of late. Trick said he's now the line between NXT and TNA, which is what they use, crossing the line. And he put himself in the conversation with AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, Drew McIntyre. Williams said he was turning his back on the NXT fans who turned their back on him, and he was going to head to TNA to make some changes. Santana interrupted, saying he wasn't going to let Trick destroy what he and other wrestlers had done to build TNA. Williams shot back that only world champions can call the shots. Santana got a Boricua chant going, which was pretty great. He said he knows Trick is a pretender as a fighter and a rapper. He dissed his tight pants and his high-heeled boots, saying he's the realest and the illest, promising he will take the TNA title off of him. Santino Marella then popped up on the Titantron, telling Trick he will be a fighting champion and he will defend that title against Santana next week. Quick brawl with Santana. He stood tall at the end, and the segment was over. I did not expect this match to happen so quickly. Given Slammiversary is less than 2 months away at the UBS Arena in New York, it makes way too much sense for this to happen there, with Santana beating Williams for the strap. It makes me believe that this is just going to be a match that either Trick wins via cheating or one that gets interrupted with a DQ or a no contest, and it pushes that further down the line. Making Williams a 1 week transitional champion simply would not calculate, but this was a great confrontation segment. Some of Trick's best mic work, especially in an extended segment. Santana was straight shot out of a cannon. There's really not much more you could want from either of them. Dempsey backstage said Heights and Miles Bourne made the NQCC proud with their singles opportunities, but since they failed, they needed to regroup and work as a team again. Bourne refused, and then he challenged Dempsey, saying he'd have no choice but to let him go if he wins. Dempsey accepted, but only if it was a rounds match. I'm not sure why he would have to leave the group to wrestle singles, nor why he and Heights, having proven their ability the last few weeks, wouldn't be pushed as a team when they could be incredible tag team champions for NXT. They could be the heir apparent to Fraxium, and instead they're splitting them and going singles. I mean, I'm sure it'll all make sense eventually, but I'm just surprised they're going this way. North American Championship was on the line. Ricky Saints against Ethan Page. This started hot in a unique fashion. Security surrounded the ring, prevented them from brawling before the bell, forcing a pull apart so there could be a ring announce and an official start. It got chaotic ringside a few minutes into the match. That led Ava down to make some kind of decree. One would have thought it would be like a no disqualification, but all she established was that the referee could use his discretion. Like, they came so close to giving Ava some real backbone, excruciatingly close, and they still didn't. After commercial, they brawled and tumbled over the announce table, taking out the commentators. When the referee separated them, demanding they enter the ring, Page took advantage by hitting Twisted Grin into an upturned chair in what may have been, singularly, the gnarliest, unexpected spot I've seen in a long time, because the chair was completely out of frame. So when you saw them get separated, and then he does the move, you're like, oh, okay, it's just a Twisted Grin. He's just going to fall ringside. But then you see the chair. The chair was gimmicked, so it flew apart in a bunch of pieces. The crowd went ballistic over this, and I popped it home because, again, the chair was out of frame. I had no idea it was there. And when just the way it panned down was such great camera work. Saints immediately took Ego's edge when returning to the ring for a false finish. Page just started beating on him and hit a cheap throat shot before the referee kind of turned around. Saints gutted through a battle sequence, took a super kick to the throat, countered a pull-up attempt into a tornado DDT. He had a toss suplex and an inverted DDT, but got turned inside out with a clothesline to the throat. Page avoided Rochambeau, and when he got to the apron, he snapped the top rope directly into Saints' neck. Then he hit Twisted Grin to win the North American Championship. This was absurdly awesome. Maybe it just spoke to everything I personally like about wrestling, but the pacing, in-ring storytelling, the overall booking of this title loss, it could not have been any more perfect. It started hype as hell, maintained intensity, extended longer than expected, especially given all the punishment Saints had taken, and it ended in an extremely smart fashion with a unique rope snap. Saints selling the neck for half the match, and all the moves they put together to accentuate that injury and provide reason for the loss, it just made this immensely compelling from bell to bell. I might be higher than some of you, but I tuned into NXT fresh off my Knicks losing. I was in a terrible mood, and my night was turned around by this match. 4 stars, A-. In terms of the title change, incredibly interesting decision. Paige is the first person now to win the North American title after the NXT championship, and he has been incredible in this violent heel role between what he did against Saints and obviously previously what he did against Javon Evans. Saints dropping this makes me think it's possible he takes some time off, returns going after Obafemi's title. But on the other hand, he hasn't really been built up enough for that. And his feud with Paige can't end on that note. He has to get some type of retribution here. So I loved this booking, every element that's involved, and I'm not exactly sure where they're going, which is kind of compelling for TV. I want to know what's going to happen next. Paige hit the ring about 90 minutes later, celebrating his title win, only for Evans to interrupt him and inform Paige he will be defending the title against him at Worlds Collide. Ethan obviously protested, and Javon informed it was not only he that Paige would be competing against. Laredo Kid shockingly appeared in the crowd, cut a pretty nice English promo, and then Javon informed there was one more challenger. Suddenly, Ray Phoenix comes out saying he would burn him up and take the title. That is an insane match booking. Seriously wild. Something you never would have thought to put together. Javon Evans, Ethan Page as champion, Laredo Kid out of nowhere, and Ray Phoenix down from the main roster, all for the North American Championship. Crazy stuff. Now, credit to Stevie Turner, because backstage, she called out Ava for not giving Sean Legacy the title match he deserves and putting 4 other men in front of him, by the way. Ava promised Legacy will get his title match against the Worlds Collide winner when all is said and done. So at least that, but it does not change the fact that 4 people got a title opportunity before the guy who won the number 1 contendership, which is frankly ridiculous. Jasper Troy murked Dante Chen in his NXT debut match. His entrance was great, carrying chains with strobe lights flashing. But if there was ever a dude who I would not have pegged being about death metal, it was this guy. He seemed to be about it, though. He won with Black Hole Slam, which was basically a tweaked Bossman Slam. Oba immediately appeared in the crow's nest, telling Troy that he showed him brief respect by not attacking him from behind after this, but his 5 minutes of fame were already over. I thought we'd get more between these two, so this was slightly disappointing. Tatum Paxley fought Jada Parker. Could be wrong because her entrance got cut off. I believe Jada got lyrics added to her basic track. I'm going to have to hear it in totality to determine whether it actually works, but I really have not liked it to this point. Parker hit a backstabber and a teardrop early. Paxley got a string of offense only to get held back by the referee when trying to go outside, which made no sense whatsoever. Jada threw Tatum's redheaded doll of Gigi Dolan into the ring, distracting her, and then she hit Hypnotic for the win. This largely sucked, okay? You guys know how much I love Jada Parker, how much I love Tatum Paxley. This sucked. They barely got to work. The finish was absurd. I didn't expect Paxley to win, and I get her gimmick, but she looked like a moron here. She carried Jada in the match, and yet they only wrestled for, I'm actually going to check while I'm kind of talking about it. Let me filibuster for a second. They wrestled for 3 minutes and 46 seconds. I mean, it was just a joke.
You don't give a damn, and my problem is I care too much.
Not exactly the drop I wanted to play, but I do maybe care too much about Paxley and Parker. They deserved a lot more than this. Thea Hale attacked Jada afterwards, presumably setting up a match between them. I'm just so disappointed that something involving 2 of my favorite women in NXT was basically nothing. Zarya and Sol Ruka later offered empathy, seeing Tatum freaking out backstage, saying they would be there for her if she needed an ear to be lent. The Culling stalked all 3 of them, watching this transpire. We'll have to see what this is all about. But yeah, another week where Tatum basically gets nothing. Given what happened with Vaquer early in the show, with Jane now being champion, perhaps her time is coming. Not going to get my hopes up. The entire fan base is all about her. I don't understand Shawn Michaels' problem. Tony D'Angelo met with Luca Crucifino, trying to make sense of what happened to him lately, especially at Battleground. Crucifino said Stax left him in the desert but didn't clip him, and he didn't reach out to D'Angelo because doing so would have put everyone at risk. He only came back because he saw how things were going. D'Angelo didn't buy any of it, given he showed up for no reason at the end of the match and cost him the victory. And Tony D, yeah, dude, you're completely right about that one.
Thank you.
So we'll see where this goes. Luca's explanation was pretty thin. Tony rightly had no reason to believe a word he was saying. I'm glad he was smart enough for that, given his gimmick and the way the character has been written. It feels like this may be one of those angles where Luca's actually telling the truth, but Tony's refusal to believe him pushes him away and towards Stacks. We'll see whether that's exactly what happens. But if you're Crucifino and you're on D'Angelo's side, why are you showing up at the end of that match when he's about to win with his finisher? Doesn't really fit together. Yoshiki Inamura told Josh Briggs he came back from Japan for him, so Briggs handed him back his vest. Inamura said they still have way too much to accomplish, suggesting he had plans for them beyond winning the NXT tag team titles. I do wish Briggs was working singles, but Inamura is great. He is over, and this concept is interesting, so I'm at least intrigued and I'm willing to see what happens. Wesley got a promo package saying Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe are the real brothers he thought he previously had with the Rascals. The boys actually got to speak, with Wes saying, this isn't about selling out but buying in, and if they stick together, they will rise together. I do like the name High Rise, but they actually need to do something substantial. Andre Chase was giving his guys a talk, but they misunderstood what he said, approached Ava, hoping to take more risks. Ava granted their ask, making a 3-on-3 match against Dark State that left Chase shook. Hey, ain't no such thing as halfway crooks. The new Chase U, it's okay, but it's not at all hitting like the original. It's missing the heart and soul of the group, and I'm not sure that's going to be found unless it expands and adds more likable talent than these two guys who kind of come off as doofuses, if I'm being completely honest. So that really wraps up NXT. It was a fantastic episode. Obviously, when you get major surprises like the ones Shawn Michaels gave us, you're going to be pleased, especially coming out of a premium live event. I got to tell you, we're 5 full months into 2025. I don't want to hear shit about Paul Levesque being Booker of the Year. You could say that over the last month, Tony Khan's done a good job with AEW, but over the last 5 months, Shawn Michaels is your Booker of the Year for 2025. We'll see what happens in our 2025 Getting Over Awards, aka the Meaties, which are about 7 months from now. But Silver King's vote, as of today, goes to HBK. Now, it's been a while since we've talked WWE Evolve, and I actually want to go over it and spend a couple minutes on it because on Wednesday night's episode, they crowned the inaugural Evolve Women's Champion, and that specifically is something I want to discuss. So, wrapping up the last 3 weeks of Evolve, and we're going to do this real fast, I promise you. Harlem Lewis left Keanu Carver high and dry in a tag team loss to Gallus. They fought the following week in a showcase, and you know what that one was about.
Oh, we got 2 big meaty men bumping me tonight.
It was great for what it was.
Big meaty men slapping me. That's what I want.
It's what we got to see. Carver won with a turnover power slam that really serves as a perfect finisher for him. Lexus King beat Sean Legacy after Swipe Right attacked his friend Timothy Thatcher ringside, one of the better Evolve matches to date. The heels beat the faces in a tag team match the following week. They and Vanity Project continue to impress. Nikita Lyons told Stevie Turner she didn't want to be in the women's 4-way to determine the first champion. She wanted to be the number 1 contender. Actually kind of smart, at the same time, completely undeserved.
Dude, not cool.
Idris Enofe debuted in an interview segment after 7 months off due to shoulder surgery. I'm glad he's getting a chance to go singles. He was always the star between he and Malik Blade. The promo was okay, not special. He had a nice win over Oro Mensah before Mensah obviously got released. Troy Yearwood and Jin Tala from LFG, they're now on Evolve. Jin's ceiling is crazy high. She impressed more than most on that LFG show. I'm still not finished with that, though. Lince Dorado made his WWE in-ring return as well. He has been in Orlando working as a trainer in the Performance Center. There was a really fun Clash of Styles match. High Rise against Cappuccino Jones and Jack Cartwheel. Wesley was with his guys this time. The fun facts for the faces were pretty funny during this. The heels obviously got the win with Heartstopper. Apparently, Lee is going to wrestle something next week, maybe Cappuccino. Feels like he should be above that. The inaugural Evolve Men's Championship will be crowned next week between Enofe, Legacy, Carver, and Jackson Drake, the latter of whom just really seems out of place in that match. Carver is probably going to win. He's the right choice, but Legacy would be an interesting move. The inaugural Evolve Women's Champion was crowned in a 4-way elimination match between Kali Armstrong, Kylie Ray, Kendall Gray, and Wendy Chu, which were definitely the right 4 to be in this match. Natalya was there to present the championship to the winner. That was a pretty sweet gesture. I love that the stipulation was elimination to decide an inaugural champion. Very smart. That way you're whittling 4 down to 1, as opposed to one person getting lucky and winning a 4-way. Kylie eliminated Wendy first, getting a measure of revenge. That story has been ongoing since the start of Evolve. Kendall did a moonsault with a double pin attempt, really cool spot. She had Callie in an armbar near a submission when Kylie grabbed her from behind for a crucifix pin and elimination. Ray caught Armstrong's finisher midair for a crossface. Then she countered a power slam into a tight pinning combination for another false finish. Callie finally landed a triple rope run Callie connection, which is just a running shoulder tackle, to become the first Evolve Women's Champion. I loved this match. I love Callie. I said she was the right champion a few weeks ago, but man, do I dislike that finisher. It is way too basic for someone who is already as special as she. Putting that aside, Ray was the MVP of the match by a mile. The veteran ring general ensuring everything worked. Armstrong had to win. She's the star. It was the correct booking. One consistent takeaway I have from watching Evolve is the crowd is just way too small. It's probably 50 people. It needs to be like 100 or 150. The show just feels vacant, even when it's at its best. And I know it's on Tubi, and I know it's not meant for general consumption, but still I feel like they could make a couple enhancements and it could come across way better. So that wraps up NXT and Evolve this week. Silver King needs to remind you to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. You get full-length audio episodes, full-length video interviews, and clips from old video interviews that were previously aired on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all that good stuff. You can also send in questions and comments for the show. And lastly, please do not forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
Hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Moving over to AEW, I didn't really have anything, just like with NXT for the AEW Double or Nothing second look. I will say Anarchy in the Arena, it was an A match. That's what I called it on the show. I'm not changing that to an A+ or anything. I said it was between 4.25 and 4.5. Wherever you have it is totally fine. That's where it stood for me, and I stand by that completely. In terms of what happened on television, obviously we're going to break down everything from Dynamite and the leftovers from Collision that did not have anything directly to do with Double or Nothing, which we already covered on that instant analysis. Now, I don't have time to get into the details on today's show, just given how late we're taping Thursday and how exhausted I am, frankly, from the entire week. But since I've been so critical of Tony Khan's frontward-facing conflict with WWE in the past, I wanted to take a moment and give him a legitimate hat tip for the way he addressed what was a planted question about WWE counter-programming AEW at the press conference after Double or Nothing. He said exactly what I've been telling him to say for years when confronted with similar questions and situations. He recognizes it. AEW is going to do its own thing. It's not going to back down. It's going to succeed. And that's that. Either Tony's grown or his PR team has gotten to him. Maybe it's a bit of both. I'd guess it's the latter. Good for them. Good for him. It was the perfect answer to that question. He does not need to give air to it. Let WWE do their, I don't want to say anti-competitive because they're literally competing. That's exactly what they're doing. Let WWE do what they think they need to do. A lot of it is fine. A lot of it is kind of shitty and stupid. The Great American Bash booking going head-to-head with All In, it's ridiculous and unnecessary. It's WWE putting its NXT brand in a bad position. It is not going to draw viewers away from All In, which is AEW's biggest show of the entire year. So what you're doing is you're putting an NXT special on in the middle of the day and having fewer people watch it than otherwise would live. You're not going to affect the buy rate of All In. You're not going to affect people going to buy tickets for All In. It's just stupid. And I'm glad Tony addressed it this way because he doesn't need to say that. Let the fans say that. And that's what we're saying, right? Now, in terms of, match relevance on TV, look, 4 of 13 matches this week were storyline relevant. And this was on a week that included a go-home and a show after a pay-per-view. Even if I give grace and say 5 of 13 because there was one I was wishy-washy, it's still a real poor proportion when one of the storyline relevant matches was a qualifier for a sudden international title match that's happening next week. during a 4-hour Fyter Fest, which we're going to talk more about, I promise you, later in the show. Let's get to primarily everything that happened on Dynamite, a little bit of Collision mixed in as well. Hangman Page opened the show Wednesday actually wearing the Owen belt for about 5 minutes, which was nice to see outside of the pay-per-view. He said the victory at Double or Nothing was great, but it's what you do with such an opportunity that actually matters. He thanked Will Ospreay for the fight of his life and getting him back in the right headspace, saying now he was focused on winning the AEW title and putting it back in the light. He said AEW is about competition, creativity, compassion, passion, and the human dignity with which we all treat each other. I mean, I completely agree on competition, creativity, and passion. But yeah, give me a freaking break that AEW is about the human dignity and condition. Please. Page promised he would free the AEW title from Jon Moxley in 7 weeks. Hangman's passion with which he cuts promos, it's largely excellent. And he was great here, weaving his personal story into his focus for the AEW title. I will say that he overdoes it time and again. Will Ospreay does as well. And Page did that here to a degree. And I know this is completely superficial, but his haircut really throws me from taking him like super seriously. Like I said, it's superficial. Swerve Strickland interrupted, showing a clip of the Young Bucks from April when they said they cost Swerve the title on Hangman's behalf. Page called him a dumbass, saying he would have cost him the match himself, as he had many times before. Ospreay entered looking like a 1990s Grudge fan after Swerve called Page full of shit. Though Swerve just said the word shit, the fans got muted, chanting, "Holy shit." Like, what are we doing here? This is a TV 14 show. Why are we muting any of this? Ospreay basically got Hangman's back, saying he really cares about AEW, and if Swerve does too, he needs to admit that Page is the guy and work together to support him, presumably against the Death Riders. Swerve swiped the mic out of his hand, saying he would never trust Hangman, and he stormed out. Hangman also seemed to tell Ospreay he didn't want Swerve's help. Extremely strong continuation of this opening segment. Neither of them should be willing to team with the other under any circumstances at this juncture. The question becomes whether AEW drags us all the way out to All In, where Swerve kind of gets to play the Undertaker role for Cody Rhodes against Roman Reigns, the person who comes out last, evens the sides, allows Hangman to get the win that he deserves. I make that comparison because if you don't see the parallels between this and that, the Avengers Assemble aspect of the top baby faces teaming up to go against the Riders and the Bucks, then you're being willfully ignorant. I'm not saying it's inherently bad to be similar. The story is different enough where it's not identical by any means, but the concept is the same. Ultimately, this was one of Dynamite's strongest opens in a long time. It was exactly what they needed to do coming out of Double or Nothing. I will say what's going to be funny is that one side of this is going to have these three guys, Samoa Joe and Kenny Omega, plus whomever else. And the other side is going to be Jon Moxley. And then like Claudio Castagnoli's the second guy, Wheeler Yuta, the Young Bucks, Gabe Kidd. That doesn't really measure up to a group full of top tier main eventers. I'm just saying. On Dynamite, Moxley, Kidd, and Marina Shafir beat Mark Briscoe, Mike Bailey, and Willow Nightingale in 19 minutes via referee's decision. So just days after Anarchy in the Arena, Willow is the only babyface from that group still wanting to go against these guys in the ring. What happened to the ops? Why are there no other women in the company willing to fight Shafir where Nightingale has to be used again? Bailey and Briscoe literally had nothing to do with this. Chris Statlander watched backstage. They cut to her 2 or 3 different times. Briscoe took the L with Paradigm Shift and a Bulldog choke. The others got submitted simultaneously. It was good action. It went far too long for really no real reason whatsoever. On Dynamite, Mercedes Moné rode into the arena sitting on the back of a Chevy Caprice lowrider. It was kind of an odd visual because it happened during the daytime, yet the show is at night. She main evented for a confrontation with Toni Storm, saying absolutely nothing before the main champion entered. Storm said she's been waiting for Moné. Mercedes put herself over as usual. Moné said Storm has grown over the last decade, but she's not a boss anymore. She's a CEO. Then she promised they'll have the greatest women's match of all time, which is quite a promise. One I hope they can, but I'm not sure they actually will live up to. Tony said they have both become who they were meant to be in AEW, but while Mercedes wants to collect titles, Tony only needs the one she's currently holding. Storm said something similar to what Moné did, but said while Mercedes is the greatest of all time, she's timeless. The segment should have ended right there. That was the apex. The crowd popped. Instead, they each got one additional line, traded fake out finishers, and that really disappointed me. It was easily Storm's best promo since she won the title back, by a mile. She still got some innuendos in. She still sniffed Monet and kissed her hand. She did all her shtick, but it was contained within a more substantial promo that had depth and meaning rather than being surface level and superficial. This is precisely why I had been so annoyed and frustrated with Storm for most of this year, because she can cut promos like this that don't solely rely on her saying tits and pussy. Monet was okay. She's never going to be great on the mic. She did well enough to hang with Tony, but Storm dominated this segment. Dynamite opened and closed extremely strong. It made both matches and All In feel like a major, major deal. Everything in between those two segments, for me, mostly meh. In a promo package on Dynamite, MVP bragged about the Hurt Syndicate's 5th straight tag team title defense. For reference, their wins are over the Guns, who haven't been on TV since for some reason, the Outrunners, the Learning Tree, Gates of Agony, Top Flight, and Sons of Texas. Whatever the opposite of a murderer's row is, it's those 5 teams as challengers. MJF said his goals are to help them retain those tag team titles while he gets back the AEW title. Bobby Lashley gave him a side eye during that, so clearly he's going to prevent that from happening. We'll see where this goes. It was solid enough. On Dynamite, Ricochet backstage basically says he's looking for a group. Maybe crew? I mean, that would be really rough if those 3 came together. I don't actually believe he needs anyone. If you want to give him something, it would be muscle to enhance him. Hopefully that's the direction they go. Otherwise, this really could be a step the wrong way. On Dynamite, Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford beat Anna Jay and Harley Cameron in a no disqualification match. Both teams had matching gear, which was appreciated. It does seem like this division's going to happen, but this match was extremely rough. There was a Death Valley driver through one table. Bayne took a chair shot to the head, leading to a powerbomb through a table ringside. Cameron took as long to get up from delivering this move as Bayne did taking it, despite Harley not taking any damage. I didn't get that at all. Megan then took Harley, slammed her headfirst into the steel steps so hard, she got fully busted open, might have broken her nose. Jay did a gory bomb of Ford onto a chair. They did Fate's Descent into a chair for a broken fall, which I wish had ended the match and not been a broken fall, because the way the match actually ended is that she took one of the worst doomsday devices I've ever seen, worse than most dangerous. This match exposed Bayne in that she cannot carry. And that's generally okay. But when she's the top star and the best talent in the match, it becomes a serious issue. Anna also got her nose cut and bruised, and we still have no information on why Ford is even with Bayne. On Dynamite, the lights went out seconds after Jamie Hayter began speaking, leading to the debut of Thekla. I believe that's how you say her name. There was a really weird cut where we were shown the big screen with her name. They cut to the ring, and she was just standing there right next to Hayter looking at her. And then she delivered one strike and bent over like a spider. And that was it. It ended. She's super talented. She levels up the division. It's a great addition. But this was a horrendous debut. Like all-time bad. They teased this with spider graphics for weeks. And then she gets less than 30 seconds. Now, granted, the crowd hardly reacted, but still. Yikes. On Collision, Kyle Fletcher beat Jay Lethal in 11 minutes. 11 minutes for a guy who's been going toe-to-toe against the best of the best like Will Ospreay, against the guy who hasn't been on TV in forever and lost to Nick Wayne in a near squash like last week or 2 weeks ago. On Collision, Josh Alexander squashed AR Fox in 4 minutes. Fox, the guy who took Fletcher to 9 minutes just days earlier. This shit just doesn't fit together. Fletcher's been billed as the bigger star. Fox doesn't even have much of a reason to fight the Don Callis family. It's just convoluted. On Dynamite, the TNT title was on the line. Adam Cole defending against Fletcher. He beat him via DQ in 10 minutes. Fletcher was 100% deserving of a title shot, no question. But there was no real reason he got it other than the fact that they had the trios match at Double or Nothing, which itself kind of just happened. Paragon saved from Roppongi Vice confronting. Remember when Roderick Strong was over? What a fall. Fletcher then powerbombed Cole, who had just returned from a concussion. Really an ankle injury is what he returned from, but he had major concussion symptoms as well. He powerbombed him headfirst into the ring apron. One of the worst and most dangerous such moves I have ever seen. Zero care for his coworker, getting him close enough to ensure that he landed on his back. A guy we all know had concussion problems, extensive concussion problems. Now you're going to see some people online saying his head didn't hit it and it was just his arm. His arm made the thud. Anyone with eyes sees the back of his head careen off the edge of the ring apron and his neck tilt forward. How this match was allowed to continue, I have no idea. The referee came over. The trainer didn't even check on Cole. Some people have said bad head bumps should end matches immediately, even if the wrestler doesn't have symptoms right away. I've not necessarily always agreed with that, but if someone with serious concussion issues takes a head bump into the hardest part of the ring, the effing trainer should at least be checking on dude. Unbelievably, Fletcher kicked him in the face and Don Callis pulled on his head, bending his neck backwards over the bottom rope immediately after this. But he did look completely fine. He wrestled without issue. Cole hit Panama Sunrise, only for Alexander to take his head off when he kind of tried to lower the boom for the disqualification. Brody King saved ahead of a scheduled match. Fletcher then complained backstage that Alexander interfered, except they literally planned it, and Cole attacked him, basically leading to a rematch at some point down the line. Clearly, I didn't like any of this. On Dynamite, King beat Alexander in 14 minutes to qualify for that 4-way international title match against Kenny Omega at a Fyter Fest TV special next week. It's going to be a 4-hour show, and frankly, that may put your boy in a grave. King got knees up on a moonsault, hitting a lariat and gonzo bomb for the win. Easily the match of the night, B+, A-, right between there. Alexander was busted open. There was lots of unintentional blood on this show. Huge deserved win for King. He's been booked poorly much of his AEW career, just given his size and ability. I'm glad he's in this match. The other competitors will be Claudio or Commander, then Mascara Dorada or Hechicero. We already knew Omega was winning, but damn, make it obvious. On Dynamite, the Ops squashed something called the Frat House, which is Cole Carter, Griff Garrison, and Preston Vance, plus 3 other guys. Oh, Jack Jameson, is there as well. Apparently, this was established for Ring of Honor back in February. I guess this is supposed to be like a more mature Chase U. It's even blue instead of red. The difference is the top 2 guys in this group are 35 and 33. There's something to be said about like rostered jobbers. They absolutely have a place, but this was rough. I don't want to see this on TV. On Collision, Commander and Mike Bailey beat LFI in 12 minutes. This was the main event of the go-home show. Best match on the show. 3.75 stars B+, but completely irrelevant to anything. On Collision, Don Callis family beat Bandito and the Outrunners in a match built last week, but it still felt random seeing everyone there together, but I did give it credit. On Collision, Paragon beat Grizzled Young Veterans in 9 minutes. They did like 2 to 3 weeks of build-up for this and just had a basic 9-minute match. And on Collision, Mascara Dorada, Mystico, and Templario, I believe, beat Los Depredadoras in 10 minutes. I botched at least 1, if not 2 of those names. If you don't know any of them, it's okay. All our CMLL talent who wrestled the match on an AEW show that had absolutely zero to do with anything presently happening on the program. This was on a go-home to a pay-per-view, so that was immensely disappointing. So like I said, Collision was a bunch of nothing, as it usually is. Dynamite open, great. Close, great. In between, couple decent matches, a lot of problems, and I would say that, again, main event-wise, building to All In, what they did to open and close, extremely strong, exactly what they needed to do coming off of Double or Nothing. Everything else, the 90 minutes between that, I thought was a massive disappointment coming off a hot pay-per-view that had a lot of fans excited. So, folks, that wraps up this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. On the way out, allow me to first remind you that this show
is all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we'll read it live right here on the show. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. Follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. And don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
Hope you do as well. Please visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis each week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. This show will be back on Tuesday, talking all things WWE. Thursday again, same bat time, same bat channel, talking NXT and AEW. The 750th edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, as of now, is scheduled for June 10th, so mark your calendars. This is the Silver King signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.